the best HLTV fantasy player we've had ever. It's Lucy.
Hello everyone, I am back and very happy with how I went for I Am Dallas playoffs. Very low scoring event overall, but a very good result. I played it safe. It paid off even better than I thought it would, which is fantastic. But now we get into the fun stuff, guys. It's major season, which means that for this video and maybe for some future videos, it's going to be a split of both Pickems and fantasy. So I'll keep the start bit for the Pickems and then I'll do the fantasy after. So, because I know a lot of people are just interested in Pickems, but fantasy is my main thing and they inform each other. So let's start with the Pickems for the opening stage and then we'll get into fantasy. So I'm going to do this all within HLTV because now it's built in, which makes it a whole lot easier. You can sync it with Steam, but also it's got a simulator, which is great. This is what we used to use on Majors.im. It's now built into HLTV, which makes things a bunch easier in terms of predicting outcomes. Although I will say, because it's best of one and it's MR12, grain of salt. And in fact, in this first round, I think that every single team here can lose this opening match, except for Heroic. They're the only one that I have confidence in winning their opening game. But the rest, it's all like anything could happen. So yeah, I would be careful trying to base this off both seed, but also off best of ones. If we do look at it from higher seed, it has Complexity and Heroic going through 3-0, Bait, Bet Boom, 3-1, that's fine. Tyloo, Lin Vision, Wildcard, FlyQuest are kind of wild for the 3-1 and 3-2. I think that FlyQuest, sure, fair enough, but the rest, I don't think this is where they're going to end up. And so I think the seeding is maybe a little bit off just because the regional bias of how some of these teams are ranked throws it out a little bit. So yeah, I think teams like Tyloo and Lin Vision, well overranked. Same with, even Complexity, I think are a little overranked here, but that's just through virtue of the events that have played out this year. So actually looking at the Pickems, because you can't really gauge trying to calculate the whole way through. It's too difficult. Instead, we just need to use logic and recent performance to decide who's going to go 3-0. For me, the only one that I'm 100% confident on would be Heroic. I think they have an opening game they win every single time, and they're just the strongest team here. Even with some Pius and Saw leaving, it's the major. It doesn't really change anything for their performance, I don't think. So 3-0, very comfortable with that. You could go Complexity here, but I think the other choice you can go, and the choice I will go, is Bait. I think that Bait have shown they're in an incredible form at the moment. It's like this entire year, they've been phenomenal. Great run in the MRQ, and I expect them to do well here, especially with the opponents they'll be facing. And in the worst case scenario, if Complexity does go 3-0, we probably end up with Heroic and Bait playing each other in the 2-0, or maybe, yeah, potentially. So in that case, one of these should definitely be going through. Happy with that. With the 0-3, I think, again, there's only one team I'm really confident in placing here, and that's Shinga's Warriors. Mostly because they just don't have experience playing at the top level, but they're also, if you looked at these teams here, the weakest in terms of individuals, experience, and yeah, they got Heroic first round, which puts them in 0-1 immediately. It's just the most logical choice. In terms of your second 0-3, I've seen a lot of people putting Fluxo here. I think that's really risky. I personally don't think Fluxo is a team you want to put 0-3. I think that's maybe a mistake. I think they've been doing really well domestically. I'm a big fan of Art, so maybe I'm a little biased, but they have FlyQuest first round, and that is very losable for FlyQuest, so I don't want to put Fluxo there. Instead, for me, I think you're either looking at one of the, probably Lin Vision, if you want to go one of the other Asian teams, or NRG. I think that NRG, I'm not expecting them to get through here. And so for me, may as well put them 0-3 just because I do think that some of these other teams are more best of one merchants. Like a Lin Vision or a Tyloo can win a best of one, I feel. Whereas NRG, I could see them starting slow and just not warming into it. That's my 3-0s, that's my 0-3s. For the advancing teams, this is pretty straightforward. Complexity makes a lot of sense. I think OG are very good. I think I wouldn't want to overrate them, but I also don't want to underrate them. I think they're a solid 3-2 team. I think people are going to be surprised by OG. They've been doing some pretty good stuff this year, and I'm going to have them going through. Bet Boom, just virtue of the individuals on this team, I think should be able to get through. I also think Namiga can get through. I think that Zwei is an insane fragger, and This team's really impressed me in some of the games I've covered, so I really like them going through. I'm going to grab FlyQuest. I always put FlyQuest. That's maybe my one troll pick, but I do think they have a pretty good chance of going through here, so I am going to pick them. If you are following my picks, that's the one that I would suggest maybe changing, but for me, I have to always pick them. It's just something I do every single time, so they have to be there. Leaves me one more spot, and again, I don't particularly rate Tyloo and Lin Vision. I do think that one of them potentially could get through if there's favorable matchups, but I worry about them. I've cast them, both of them, a bit in ECL, and they play a lot of sloppy CS at times, and even between the two of them, it's hard to tear them apart at different points. So for me, I can see them winning best of ones. Can I see them advancing? Not so sure. I'm going to go Imperial as the final one. They're the strongest of the 3 South American teams, and they've already had a few runs at international lands this year, so I feel relatively confident in them at least being able to perform against some of the stronger teams here. So that's going to be my Pickems. It's, I think, maybe a little different to some people's. I think maybe I'm rating some of these teams a bit differently to others, particularly when it comes to the South Americans, but I think there's enough safety here with the European teams that should be able to ride out any mistakes I've made along the way. So let me know what you're doing for your Pickems, of course, and if you disagree, that's fine. But that's Pickems. Let's get into the real stuff. That's what we're actually here for. Let's take a look at the actual fantasy for this event, because again, with these events, there's so much fun we can have. So let's have some. So let's take a look at some players, and straight up, we're avoiding complexity. They are stupidly overpriced and are definitely not worth drafting. Like, I don't think anyone, maybe Nick or JT, like, it's too much for these players. Even Heroic are a little expensive for some of them. Like, I think Tania and Youngster, maybe slightly overpriced. Personally, I think LNZ's okay because he's got decent roles and you expect this team to go through 3-0, so you get good team points and boosters. But for me, it's either Sunpice or XCloud. They're the two that really have the best value here, in my opinion, because both of them can really take over a game. I think XCloud in particular, compared to Sunpice, just because best of ones, if he's going against a weak team, can farm. FlyQuest, just not worth picking. Like, why would you get Netic when you can get Sunpice or XCloud? Same with Regali. Like, these players just aren't worth drafting, and I think the lowering ones are a little too risky. Like, maybe there's a case for Liaz, but personally, pass. Bait, though, I think across the board, all pretty good choices. For me, Headtrick is the standout versus MPL, like 6k cheaper and decent rolls, can be the star, a lot of times is, alongside MPL, so, and won't cost you if Bait do bomb, but I don't think they will. But yeah, I think anyone on here, like, they've all been performing very well lately, so I just pick who you can afford, to be honest, but I think it's a really good team to draft into. Wildcard also inflated prices, in my opinion. The only player that isn't is maybe Susp, but I think the rest are. Stan, I guess you could consider as an OK IGL for 179, but I think there's better budget picks, and I just don't have a great deal of confidence for Wildcard, so for me, it's a pass. Tyloo, maybe there's a case here, actually. We get some decent value in Mercury and Mosea. I think the rest maybe aren't worth it, but Mosea, I think, stands out the most to me. Maybe G if you want an AWPer, but yeah, I'd go Mosea. Legacy, pricing is a bit too expensive, I think, for a team that will struggle to get through. And if they do, it's kind of a slog. So I think you're looking a bit too much for the good players here. And for Lin Vision, it's kind of a similar situation with Tyloo, I think. Even though I do think Lin Vision at times is better than Tyloo. Like, that they beat each other just as much. So, you know, you could be looking at a player like Call Me Sue, for instance, or Starry, you know, but to me, I think there's better value elsewhere, and it's a team that I'm a little worried about. This is where the value is. I know a lot of people will be looking at BetBoom because they should be going through here, and Axel for 196 feels brilliant. I think a lot of people are going to be drafting him, so can't really argue against it. I also think Boomage for 182 is pretty good. And I actually don't hate Magno for 215. Definitely better than Zolte, who can go absent, but Magno's a really solid player, and if BetBoom do, you know, go through it really cleanly, we'll definitely get a lot of points. Don't have the faith in NRG. Definitely don't have the faith in Shinga's Warriors. OG, I think, a sleeper. I've said this already in the Pickems section, and that remains true here. especially because this is finally a team that actually has really underpriced players, in my opinion, especially Fiku and Spook. Fiku has been playing quite well this year, I think, and has been at 184. He's giving you well above IGL level price output for that same sort of price as like a Boomage, right? So I think he's really sleeper as well as Spook. I think both of them, Spook before I think the last month was averaging like a 1.15 rating or something this year. Like between him and Nicodelas, they've been carrying this team in a lot of cases. So I think these two are really cheeky to just grab one of to enable the rest of your draft. Imperial, I think that Try and Dissentia are too expensive, but I don't hate drafting Shay or No Way. It's a little risky. Namika are in the same conversation for me as OG, where I think players like Khan could be really good. Even Risky Bob, decent choice. Sway, unfortunately, is slightly too expensive. I think at 212, I'd rather go on a player like Headtrick, but if you really want to grab someone out there, he is insane, especially on the T side, and could be a decent team to grab a player from. But Fluxo, Metasport, I'm not feeling it. I think if you look at some of these players, sure, Kai's been doing really good domestically, but I just think Fiku is better for the value. Lumi, yeah, you can get an AWPer for 178. Is that going to matter if he's putting up 0.9? You know, I don't think the players down here are really worth looking at. For my draft, I'm going to continue playing it fairly safe for the rest of the season, and so I'm going to be sticking with the teams that I have going through comfortably with my 2 3-0s. Exiled and LNZ. Don't really want to grab LNZ, I'll be real with you. I prefer to grab Exile, but my draft literally will leave $0, so I can't grab Exile, unfortunately. Gotta be LNZ. Then I'm going to grab from Bait, who are my other 2-0 team. Going to grab Headtrick and Essential. Leaves me at 184 exactly, which is enough for, if we scroll down, Fiku. Now, technically, I could go Boomage instead of Fiku, and then I could get Axel instead of LNZ, but I think that with Heroic hopefully going 3-0, that I can get a lot out of the boosters and roll, and I really wanted to draft an OG player. I think they are sleepy here, and I didn't want to pass up on them, so that's going to be my team. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you're drafting, as always, and your Pickems, of course. Post both below. And as always, good luck.